This is episode 2 for us here.
That is exciting. I like your Christmas tree.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's very nice. Okay, to get started, let's just, go over a couple of little things. Like, how old were you when you started to write, and what inspired you to be an author?
Well, I think I started writing, I was like 4th or 5th grade. So I would have been like 9 or 10.
Okay.
And I wrote a lot of short stories and poetry. And I just continued doing that throughout high school and into college, where I took creative writing. And I've just been writing short stories and poetry, since then. But
Okay.
Let's see, a few months ago, I started having this reoccurring dream, and it's going to sound very bizarre.
Okay. It's interesting.
Yes, I started having this dream about being stranded on a flooded bridge, and I was trying to figure out how to get out of my car, and the car ended up flipping over the bridge while I was still in it. And the next thing I know, I'm outside of it and I'm swimming towards shore, and I'm being pulled out of the water by these 2 guys who seem very nice. But it turns out they are a household of murderers. And and they trap
Exciting.
me. Yes, and they lock me in this basement, and then I'm trying to figure out how to escape. And that's how the dream ends. And I quite literally had that dream every single night for like 2 months, until I
wow.
was like, okay, I don't know why I keep having this dream, but I feel like I need to write it down. And
Okay.
yeah. And so I did. I started writing it down, and then the dream stopped. And then it gets even
Maybe
more
that's what you
bizarre.
needed. You needed that release to find a way to get rid of it.
Yes. Yes, I
Makes
did.
sense.
And
Okay, so
and
is
then
that a novel you're working on currently then?
that is the first novel that I wrote, and I just finished it.
Okay, is it
Um,
published yet?
so I self-published it at first about a month ago, and I've just taken it off of the market because it got picked up by a traditional publisher.
Oh, that's
So
awesome. That's great for you.
yeah, I'm really excited.
How
So
did
they're
that happen?
gonna
If you
redo
don't
it.
mind me asking, what happened there? Did they contact you or?
I did a lot of Google research. Um, I I typed in traditional publishers that accept unsolicited manuscripts, um, because of course I don't have a literary agent. Um,
Right.
so it would have to be somebody who accepts that, and a lot of places do not accept unsolicited manuscripts. But
Okay.
I found like a list of 20 different traditional publishers that did. And so I went through and looked at each one of the publishers, because, of course, all of them accept different kinds of stories. So I was looking for a publisher that accepted romantic thrillers, and there were
Is that what you're
about
calling this?
yes. So it's a dark
Is this the
suspense.
story? I believe I could be wrong because I've talked to so many different people about this podcast lately. Honestly, I want to tell you face to face now. I believe this podcast is really going to be a big deal because I have like 10, 15 people messaging me at all times now that want to be a part of it. It's just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And the reason I want to express that to you is because you may be thinking, oh, this is only the second episode, though. Many people ain't going to want to watch that one. What I think is going to happen is the more and more episodes I do with people, right? It's
Mhm.
going to funnel more people to the show. And if they like the episode that they particularly clicked on the link to see, like let's say episode 17, they're going to go back and say, hey, let's see what he talked about to all these other people. Let's see what these other people had to say. Do you
Yep.
see how that funnels back?
And I do, and I completely support what you're doing. I think it's great. For all authors, they need to be able to have their chance to get out there and to kind of tell their story and they're promoting in there. And I think what
Right.
you're doing is really great.
And you also get a sense of the touch of a person's personality too, which like you may not particularly like a type of genre or something, but let's say somebody watches the podcast and they say, "Hey, you know what, man? She was a really nice woman. You know, I'm just gonna check her book out. What the hell? You know, that
Yeah.
you don't know that could happen.
It could happen. So yeah, I'm hoping the best for both of us.
Right. Okay, I got a few more questions here for you.
Okay.
Is there a particular author that inspired you to write yourself? And if there is, why? Why that particular author?
I don't think that there's one specific. I love all genres. I'm a huge Jane Austen fan. I'm a Jane Austen girl, but
Okay.
I love Stephen King and Anne Rice. I
And
I've read.
do you base your writing style off of these authors, or do you just kind of do your own thing?
I kind of do my own thing. Um, I would never be able to compare myself to another author.
Oh, no. I don't mean in comparison, like, oh, maybe I should write like that, but just to try to adapt like a more of a style.
I don't really think so.
Okay.
I think I've just kind of trying to take my own thing. Um,
That's good.
so
Stay authentic to who you are as a writer.
I try to, yes.
You want to bring a different thing to the table anyways. You don't want to be like somebody else, but I just mean something that's a little more mainstream because some people seem to do that.
Right. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Everybody has their own way of doing things, which is exactly how they should be.
Right. Okay. What is your favorite thing about writing? What does it do for you emotionally, mentally? How does it give you anything different than from your day to day?
I see it as an outlet for me. Um, I so my daughter is autistic, and I quit my job.
I have a daughter that's autistic as well. She also potentially has a disease called NF1, which we're in the midst of trying to figure out.
Yeah.
It's pretty scary. But anyways, go ahead.
Yeah, so I ended up quitting my job a year and a half ago to be home with her and focus on all of her therapy that she needed.
Yeah.
And she's come such a long way in the last year, which has been really amazing. So my writing has really just been an outlet for me to focus some of my energy on.
Okay. And do you plan on writing a book about her or with her in it, potentially?
I haven't really decided whether or not I want to, delve into that. Maybe later down
Because
the
of
road.
an exploitation type situation, or
Right. That, and, I know my daughter's story. I don't know other people's story.
yeah.
And I don't think anybody really could ever write anybody else's story when it comes to autism, for sure.
No, for sure. Yeah, it's all going to take its own path.
Yes. So
it may help in a nonfiction type genre, though. This is the reason that I asked, because somebody may say, "Hey, I'm gonna look up some books on autism. Maybe that mom's idea that she had to help that child with that could potentially help me in my scenario. Maybe not everything will be the same, but I mean, we've even gotten suggestions from like our daughter's therapist. She has like an occupational therapist, a physical therapist. I mean, there's like 4 or 5 of them every week.
Yes.
Okay. That being said, like there's been things that we learned from them, people like, maybe try this. So maybe if you were to write almost like quote unquote a type of self-help book for them, that could be very beneficial, not for them, but for you as well with sales.
And I might do that eventually. It probably won't be something I do in the near future, but maybe later on after, because like you said, there are a number of therapists that we see all the time, every week. And And I get new information from them, and they get new information from working with my daughter. Because
Right.
when it comes to autism, they're not equal.
Yeah.
And their story is not the same. And so, later on down the road, I might consider writing something, once I have a little bit more understanding myself.
Makes sense. Okay. Okay. As an author, do you basically plan to stick to one genre, or do you want to kind of touch on everything to A, see what works better for you monetarily with sales, and B, to try your hand at something that your mind hasn't done yet?
I really enjoy writing romance. But I like writing the suspenseful romance, not
Can you describe suspenseful romance?
so it's more darker themes. And it's exactly how you would kind of imagine it. Like
Hmm.
50 Shades of Grey, for example, is a darker themed um romance novel. And
Okay.
it has something, it's not the cookie cutter kind of relationship where everything runs smooth and it's going to be a Hallmark movie. It's
Right.
not like that. um
I
you know
watch Hallmark Christmas movies with my mom and my wife, and it's basically the same story with two different characters every single time.
yes, I watch them with my grandmother, because
Okay.
she loves those Hallmark movies, and I'm just like, oh, this is so awful.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
I
Okay.
like the twists and the turns and those things that you don't necessarily see coming that kind of smack you in the face and
Mhm.
that make you question, okay, so what's the character going to do now that this huge revelation has come to
Yeah.
pass? So
And
that's
that's what will keep your readers engaged, of course.
yes. At
Right.
least I'm hoping
Okay.
so.
Right. Okay. Have you ever had writer's block? And if you have, how do you overcome it?
So I have had writer's block a few times. And I just step away from the computer for a couple of days and do something completely different than what I've been doing, because
Okay.
some days can seem very monotonous. Um, so I just kind of change it up. See, I also do charcoal drawing and do
That's
some
pretty cool.
photography. Yeah, and do some photography. So I I kind of put my energy and my focus on different things, or I sit down and I read a book because I read a lot. Um,
Okay.
and that kind of helps me to refocus and recenter and get back to where I need to be so I can continue writing.
Okay. Have you ever had a time where you're in the middle of a book, you got maybe a good few chapters done already, 3, 4, 5, and then you go back and change everything? And why would you do that if you have done that?
Um, so I actually did quite a bit of editing and changing after I self-published my book. Um,
Okay.
because so I didn't have when I first did it, I didn't use any editing software or um, didn't have it professionally proofread or anything like that.
Yeah.
So after I self-published it, I got the Kindle version of my book and I was reading it. I was like, oh Lord, there are so many
Okay.
things that I need to go back and change around here. And
Right. Okay.
so, I mean, I didn't completely rewrite it, but there were things that I added in or things that I took out. And so I think there's like 3 different versions of my book probably out there.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
yes. So so yeah, I have done that, but not like a complete rewrite or anything, but there
Right.
was things added and things taken away and changed up a little bit.
Okay. Do you feel like professional editing may change your story too much?
I really hope not. So with the second book that I'm writing right now, I got Pro Writing Aid, which
Okay.
has actually been really nice, the program, and I can just paste what I've written in there, and it kind of makes a few suggestions here and there, which did not change anything up. But with my first book that is now that's being published with the traditional publisher, you
Mm-hmm.
know, they're going to be taking over on editing and everything. I really hope that it doesn't change a lot because, of course, this is the story that I wrote and
Right.
I wanted to tell. Um, and
Mm-hmm.
I know that the company is going to work with me a lot and let me have my hands in with
Yeah.
quite a bit of the stuff. So I'm hoping that it doesn't.
Okay. Okay. That's a good answer. Where's your favorite place to write? Is there like a specific spot? Do you have like a cozy corner at home, or do you go to like a local coffee shop, or is there anything like that, or you can just write anywhere?
Um, I do have a favorite spot. I have my recliner in my little corner that my uh has my fireplace in it, and I like
Okay.
to sit there, and it has pictures of my kids around it, and I can
Mhm.
just sit there and I can write. I also
Okay.
do a lot of writing in my car while my daughter is in her ABA therapy.
Okay.
Uh, so I'll sit in my car and do quite a bit of writing in there too. But
Okay.
yeah,
That works.
yeah.
Do you ever get ideas? Like, let's say you're working on a current novel as you are now. Do you ever get ideas like when you're out and like jot them down, or is it something that you sit down and you have to like brainstorm as you're writing it?
No, I do get random ideas, and it's always when I don't have something to write with. So I send myself an email. I
Oh, that's
use
pretty cool. Yeah, that's a good idea.
my phone and I write it all down on an email and then just email it to myself.
Okay. I text myself, but yes, basically the same deal.
Yes.
Makes sense. Okay. Do you use a pen name, or is your author name your actual name? And if you do use a pen name, why?
I do not. I use my actual name.
Okay, that's cool. And do you see a reason for anybody that does use a pen name?
Um, I
Like,
mean,
I've always wondered myself, why do people do that? Is it like a safety issue? Are they scared people are going to come up to their house if their book goes big? Or
right.
there's where my thought process is going with that.
I mean, I can understand wanting the anonymity. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but like Anne Rice did it with her Sleeping Beauty trilogy, and I'm not really sure why. I guess I never really delved into why she did it, but
Was she a big author prior to posting this trilogy?
yes,
That could be why. She doesn't want people to know that it was from her. She just wants the royalties from it.
right.
Potentially, right?
Potentially, yes. And like I said, I know that there are lots of writers who do that. Why they their own reasons, but yeah, I will probably always use my own name. I think
Okay, that's
I
good.
can't see why I wouldn't.
Right. Okay. Do you have friends and family proofread your book prior to sending it to even self-publishing? Like,
I
is there anybody that you do you have a go-to? Like, hey, all right, here's my manuscript. This is the whole thing. Tell me what you think. Is there anything I should change before I send it to publishing?
Yes, I have four friends who I am very much attached to when it comes to having them read my book. Before I send them all of the individual chapters as I'm writing them up, and I'm like, "What do you think of this? What do you think of this? Do
Okay.
give me some feedback."
And
'Cause
have you ever changed anything because of the feedback from those people?
I have changed up a little bit, kind of added some more details because one of my friends, she's all about details. Um,
Okay.
Getting that full visual. So I have gone back in and added a few extra details when it comes to describing people or a place.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Are you an author full time, or do you have another job that you do yourself?
Other than taking care of my daughter and running her around everywhere, nope. This is what I do full time.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. And is this something that you would look at as more of like an ongoing hobby, or are you like trying to eventually be a best-selling author?
Well, I mean, I'd love to be a best-selling author. You know, I don't think I set myself up for any unrealistic ideas.
Okay.
You know, I don't expect my book to be a huge seller, you know, right off the bat or even within the first year. You
You
know,
know, they say Harry Potter took like a bunch of years before that became a big thing, believe it or not.
yes. And I've heard, you know, there are a lot of books that are that way.
Right.
That they take, you know, 5+ years to really start to make the rounds and
hmm
people start to take notice.
That,
So,
that that gives you hope, anyways. If it doesn't work out after the first 6 months, you're like, okay, I still got time here.
yes.
You know, because I've noticed with some authors that I've spoken to, like, yeah, you know what? Like, I asked a couple people to be on the podcast, and
Mhm.
actually, I remember one guy. I'm not going to say his name, but he's like, you know, I really would like to, but you know, I published a book a couple of years ago, and it didn't do very well, so I don't really consider myself an author. You're still an author. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
yeah, it's not how many sales you have that describes who you are. You could be a fantastic author, you just haven't gotten your book in front of the right people.
Exactly.
That's the way I see it, anyways.
And I absolutely agree with you. Um, you know, there's
Okay.
so many great artists out there. There's so many great writers out there, and that just haven't been discovered yet.
Right. All right. Now I'm going to roll into, do you ever plan on writing an autobiography of yourself? Like just of your works of being an author and how you got to where you are now? Like let's say once your books do make it in the future,
Mhm.
would that be something you'd be interested in doing?
Potentially. I mean, right now I can't see myself doing that, but again, you just never know what's going to happen.
Right.
That might change your mind and send you in a completely different direction.
Right. Because I feel like something like that would maybe be a good idea. Like, let's say a huge author that's out there now and writes a book that states, this is exactly how I got to where I'm at. This is what I did. Okay, I started off as an author and I did this and that. You know, that could help people like us. You know what I mean?
Right. And
Okay, what is one thing you find the hardest about writing? Is there anything that you find like, is it your character development? Is it setting? Is it, and why do you find that hard? How do you overcome it?
um, so far, I don't think that I have really had a hard time with struggling with putting character development together or settings. Really, that stuff has just kind of come to me very easily.
Yeah,
Um, so I mean, I'm fortunate with that.
yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
but I am also one of those people who just writes as it comes to me. I don't do outlines. You know, I
Can you
don't.
can you describe that? What do you mean don't do outlines?
So I know a lot of people think through their entire book, how they're going to write it before they start putting it down. You know, they go through and they make a they write down on paper, you know, here's chapter 1, this is the title, this is what it's, you know, the sub uh
Like key points, basically?
yes, like this is what it's going to be about, and then go to the next chapter. Okay, so this is going to be the title, this is what it's going to be about, and they go through the entire thing writing that like that, and then they go back in and then start writing. And I don't do that. I just start at chapter 1 and start writing as it comes to me, and then go straight into chapter 2. I just write it as it comes, and not I don't plan it out.
That makes sense. Okay. And how many publications do you have currently? Like that includes the short stories and all that. Do you have like a few novels? What do you have all together? at this point?
I have quite a few short stories on iReader.
Okay.
But I have never, well, I
But
do
do
have,
they seem to bode well for you, or?
they do. They,
Okay.
I've been pretty successful on it, so it's kind of nice. But I
And
really,
is iReader a self-publishing type situation as well, or?
yes. Now you can get contract offers from iReader. They have non-exclusive ones and exclusive. I would
Okay.
always suggest going for a non-exclusive one because that means you still have the rights to your book and you can publish it anywhere, and you can do anything with it. But if you get an exclusive contract, then they pretty much own your rights and you can't publish it anywhere else.
Right. Okay. Out of all the books that you've written, short stories, everything included, okay? Think of everything you've ever written. Is there one character that you could pick out and be like, hey, that guy, he's my favorite? And if there is one, why?
I mean, I'm going to go with the book that I just wrote, Charlotte. I based a lot of stuff that happened in that book around things and events that have happened in my own life. So
Okay. So is it a nonfiction book then?
No, it's fiction. But
you just have some real elements in there.
Right.
Okay.
I took inspiration from things that have happened to me and feelings that I've had and put them into this character and wrote it all out. But yes, it is fiction.
Okay, so you would say Charlotte though would be your favorite character.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, and what about Charlotte? Like, can you go a little more in depth for me on that? Like, what is it about Charlotte that you pick Charlotte out over anybody else?
So Charlotte is one of those characters just that sees the good in people, always looks to find the good in people, no matter what they have done, no matter how
Okay.
atrocious their acts are. She always looks for the good in people.
Okay. Okay. And that goes into that gets me into another question here. How do you go about getting into character development? Is that something that you just sit down and whatever comes out, or do you put that in depth as well?
It really just I really just it just comes to me. I will
Okay.
sit down and start writing, and as I'm writing, then it just kind of starts playing out in my head how this character is actually going to be and how things are going to turn out. Because I can figure out how, usually when I'm sitting down getting ready to write, I know how it starts and I know how the book is going to end. And then it's
okay.
just, yes, because I've played it all out in my head.
But when you say book is going to end, does that mean that every book that you write is going to be its own entity, or do you mean like the end of the series?
Like the end of the series, but it's going to always be the end of that particular story.
Oh, okay. I gotcha. All right. That makes sense. What is your ultimate goal with your favorite book? Is there a favorite book that you think that is going to make it eventually? Is you're just waiting your time on it and trying to do your marketing on that particular book, or do you market everything that you do and believe in all of it the same?
I haven't really marketed any of the short stories or the poems that I've done.
Okay.
Yeah, and I am kind of all about the actual books that I'm working on writing.
Okay. Okay. Have you ever found yourself writing something that you didn't think that you would be writing? Like for instance, right now, I already published 2 horror books. Okay. Neither of them are very successful yet. One's like a young adult horror the Town of Witchingtree that you'll see on my page. I also published a book before that called The Town of Skorkin, which is also in the horror genre, just quite different, where that was just like a bunch of monsters that started this town in the Town of Skorkin. The Town of Witchingtree is honed in on witches. It's based off of old coven of witches that started this town, and that book is based on like today, how that town is going to be today. Now I'm working on a new book that's just strictly romance with a little bit of a twist. Nothing horror, just something different in that romance. Now, have you ever found yourself in a situation where you're like, oh, well, I normally write this, but I have this great idea to write this in this genre?
I haven't yet. But who knows what's going to happen. So
Okay.
I just kind of go with it. And once the idea starts blooming in my head, then I start writing it down. So
Okay.
yeah, I mean, I've pretty much always stuck with the more dark, suspenseful romance, or the erotic thrillers, however you want to refer to
Yeah,
them.
right. And do you always write just like your own book, or is there ever a situation where you like co-write with a friend, or like
No.
you guys co-author a book together?
Well, we did like some of the short stories that we wrote in elementary and high school.
Mm-hmm.
I co-wrote with other kids in my class, but
And did you publish any of these?
no.
Oh,
No.
okay.
We won some awards for them, for creative
Oh, wow.
writing, but yeah, we never actually published any of them.
Okay. Okay. Who is your favorite author, and is it in the same genre that you write?
So
Like your absolute 100% favorite?
my 100% favorite author is James Patterson. And
James Patterson, you said?
yes, James Patterson.
Okay, and what have they written?
So James Patterson writes a lot of, suspense and thrillers, and not necessarily in the romantic sense. So yes, he does not write the same kind of genre as me, which
Is he like mainstream, like big name, and I just haven't heard of him, or is he kind of more of a little?
Definitely.
Oh, really?
Yes, you'll have to look it up. James Patterson has been writing since before I was born.
Now I have to go out and get a James Patterson book. I got to check him out.
There are lots of them to choose from. So
Oh, really?
yes, you're gonna have your hands full.
Okay. Well, I'll be sure to check that out. And last question I'll throw at you here is, do you have any advice for young writers, like let's say teenagers now that are coming up and saying, hey, I want to be an author, this is what I want to do. Do you have anything you can say to them that, hey, start off like this, don't do this, do that? Do you have anything that you can put out there in the world? Because like I said, this isn't only just my podcast. The way I look at it is this is our podcast. This is how I want everybody to be involved, everybody to build a network, almost like we work at the same company and we're doing a work interview right now. Do you know what I mean? Like there's where I'm trying to bring this to. So is there anything that you can put out there yourself after the close of this and say, hey, this is what I think you can do to help yourself?
I would just remind people not to get discouraged and to do plenty of research to make sure that you know what it is that you're actually writing about.
You mean genre-wise, or?
No, whatever subject matter it is that you're writing, you want to make it as believable as possible. So it's important to, like, with the stuff that I've written, I have read a lot of firsthand accounts and read their stories to see how they felt about whatever was going on. Like with when the Levee Breaks, my first book, what it felt like to actually be trapped in a car that was being flooded by water, and
Oh, geez.
how the rescue
Like
scenario.
a Final Destination kind of situation?
Yes. And I also read true accounts of what it was like to be kidnapped and the things that
You
they
mean prior to writing the book, or?
Yes, prior to writing the book, because I knew that I was going to, but I wanted to make the feelings and the situations as real as possible. So
That's actually a really good idea.
so I did a lot of research, and I'm doing some research now with my second book that I'm writing.
Okay.
So I would definitely advise to really research what it is that you want to write about, so that it can be as real and relatable as possible.
Okay. That sounds good. All right. Thank you very much. It's been a great podcast. I really hope this helps everybody else out here. I will contact you again, see if maybe you wanted to catch up in, maybe 6 months or something like that, when we both get a little further in our writing careers here. You might have some more information to give. Almost like because I watch a lot of podcasts myself. I don't know if I'm allowed to say names, but the biggest podcast in the world, if you know the name of that man, I watch him endlessly. Okay. And sometimes he will have somebody return and say, hey, it's been 6 months, he's like, yeah, I got a couple more things to tell you. You know what I mean? So,
Right.
Maybe we'll learn something along our journey here that we can bring back to the table. I don't want to just end things here and just say, oh, okay, bye, Moriah. I'll never talk to you again. So let's keep this thing like an ongoing friendship here. We'll get everybody involved. Maybe we can even do a group one eventually, I was thinking, but I don't know how that would work. You know what I mean? But we could all maybe throw ideas in there. It could be a good idea.
Maybe if you did like a group of similar genres.
That's a good idea. Yeah. Like they all write in the same genre. Or we could do I was also thinking last night, I was trying to go to sleep. I'm so excited about this podcast, that I'm just thinking of all ideas. What can I do? And that actually brings me to an idea I've had. I can't really hone in on how this idea is going to work yet, but I was thinking of something like a mashup. Like let's say we'll pick you, right? Mm-hmm. And then we'll pick a different author in a completely different genre. I don't know which one, whatever. And then we'll go through the positives and negatives of what, we'll have both of you guys on the screen or whatever and say, well, I think that this genre is better because, well, no, what if you change this up? You know what I mean? I think that might be fun, and it would help the viewers, get a better understanding of what that genre is really about. Does that make any sense?
I do, and I actually have the perfect person that you can use. And
You mean to oppose you in that video?
Yes.
Okay, well, that'll work.
And he's actually
is there a way to get 3 people on one Skype call, though? I don't know if you could do that.
I don't know. And we'd have to do that because he lives in the UK. So, and he writes.
Wow.
Which is completely opposite of what I write. But he's pretty
what
cool.
genre does he write?
He writes in sci-fi, like military sci-fi.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
It'd be kind of cool just to get, like-minded people together and, I don't know, I thought
Oh, yeah, that does sound like a good idea.
All right, we'll do that eventually then. Thank you very much, Moriah. I will have this posted by the end of the night, and I will send you the link.
That sounds great. Thank you.
Thank you. It's been very nice meeting you.